DaviePHD's COVID-19 assessment contact tracing application. These videos are covering my take on the UK government COVID-19 response. The format for these episodes is I build a bit of narrative, state a few key facts, and summarise before ultimately leaving with a few key questions which I think we should all be asking. This week we're going to cover the much anticipated, but still not here, UK government tracing application. I like to use real-world relatable examples to explain ideas. So with contact tracing, I want you all to imagine it's Sunday evening. You're at home with your kid and you find they've got nits in their hair. Now, you last washed your kid's hair on Thursday, you didn't see them then, so you start asking your kid everywhere they've been and who they've been in contact with. Your kid's at school on Friday, then after school they played at a friend's house before coming home for dinner. After dinner they went to, let's say football practice. On Saturday, your sister picked them up and took them to the park with her kids for the afternoon. They spend most of Sunday on a play date at another friend's house. If you've figured out that you need to contact your kid's school, their football coach, their friend's parents, your sister's kid's school, the other friend's parents, but you've also realised that you don't know who your kid played with at the park, then congratulations. You have successfully mounted a contact tracing operation, which will in turn, as you spread the bad news around, spawn a few more. Contact tracing has been at the forefront of tracking, suppressing and eventually, if possible, eliminating illness for a long, long time. Going back as far as the Spanish flu in the early 20th century, even as far back as the bubonic plague, tracking the movement of infected people and then using that data to predict the spread, isolate the infected and suppress disease has been an essential tool in combating pandemics since time immemorial. COVID-19 is no different. At least that is, if you're fortunate enough not to live in Tory Britain. In a professional medical setting, these used to be done via patient interviews, just with a paper and pen. But what do you do if a patient's unconscious? You could ask their partner. But what if the sick person is hiding an extramarital affair? Or was on a flight or a train and didn't know everyone else there? Old-style low-tech contact tracing relies heavily on the honesty of the patient or them being cognizant and able to give accurate information. It also can't accurately trace casual contacts, like for example the person in front of you in the queue for a bus, who the patient doesn't know. If everyone was carrying a small electronic device which tracked all their movements and interactions, this would be a lot easier, wouldn't it? Hang on. What's this? In March, a team from the NHSX Digital Division was assembled. They were told they were engaged on a vital mission to develop an NHS contact tracing application for mobile phones. According to the presentation the team was shown, the COVID-19 app would have 4 aims: to stop or slow the epidemic, to control the flow of patients into hospitals, to help people return to a normal life, and to gather secondary data for the NHS and strategic leaders. Once installed on a user's phone, the app would use Bluetooth to keep a record of other people with whom they came into close contact. If they too had installed the app, then, when someone tested positive for the virus, alerts would be sent to their close contacts of recent days telling them to go into isolation. This app would always be truthful and even manage to trace casual contacts. Sounds great, doesn't it? Well, almost. It soon became clear that using Bluetooth was unreliable, as people were reluctant to download the app because it had to be on all the time and kept open and the battery drained. On the 10th of April came a surprising joint announcement from Google and Apple. Now, being deadly rivals, they generally don't cooperate that much, but for the common good, 2 tech giants, on whose software virtually all the world's smartphones depend, said they were going to develop a system that would help Bluetooth contact tracing apps work smoothly. But there was a catch. Only privacy-focused apps would be allowed to use their platform. Apple and Google favoured decentralised apps, where the matching happened between individuals' phones. The alternative was for the matching to be done on a central computer, owned by a health authority, which would end up storing lots of very sensitive information. The app that NHS was developing was based on the centralised model, which the scientists felt was vital if the health service was to be able to monitor virus outbreaks properly. But counterintuitively, by pressing ahead with this centralised bespoke app, they were ensuring that it wouldn't be operable on 99% of mobile phones. At this stage, reports suggested that a Swiss software developer was working with Number 10, apparently recruited by Mr. Cummings. A trial of the NHS app was started in May on the Isle of Wight. It wasn't a success, only managing to trace 4% of contacts accurately. France launched a centrally controlled app, and uptake was very poor. Germany used the Google Apple platform as the basis for their app, and it was a great success, with about 10% of the population downloading it within a week. This has since increased exponentially. In the absence of the app, in May it was felt that something was better than nothing, so low-tech contact tracing via telephone was contracted out to outsourcing giant Serco. This reintroduces the old problems of relying on the cognizance and honesty of those being spoken to, and it doesn't log casual contacts, who the patient doesn't know. Added to which, on the 20th of May, Serco accidentally shared the email addresses of 300 of their newly hired contact tracers. June 18th, Apple and Google take over the design of the track and trace app from the NHS's digital arm, as the government abandons its own application. Officials said the government's app was highly inaccurate when used on iPhones, only identifying around 4% of contacts, while the Apple-Google framework has recorded 99% of all contacts. The UK government had spent £12 million of your money on the app up to that point. So, to summarise, this is yet another piece of shambolic work by Matt Hancock. When a company offers you an app, which covers 99% of all phones, you take it. The only reason not to take it could be so you could, gather secondary data for use by strategic leaders. And how confident can we feel in the Serco outsourced telephone system and its data security, given that Serco can't even keep its own employees' data confidential? As much as I want to defeat this insidious disease, I want to be sure that it is the Apple-Google decentralized model before I even look at it on the App Store. If it even has a whiff of Dominic Cummings on it, I, for one, will not be downloading it. Questions we're left with. If the biggest two tech companies in the world offer you their tech for free, why would you think you'd be better to develop your own? Who are the strategic leaders who could have had access to our data, and to what end? Given what we now know, how can we trust Serco to keep the manually gathered data safe? Will the same strategic leaders previously referred to have access to the Serco gathered data, and again, to what end? How much value did we get for the £12 million already spent, and how much will it still cost to fix? Will the new app be centralized or decentralized? Thanks for watching. Next week we'll review the overall COVID-19 strategy, or lack thereof. Folks, feel free to comment or ask additional questions. I will try to respond to everyone. Though I'm clearly an independent supporter, unionists are welcome here. Keep the chat civil and impersonal at all times. Thanks, DaviePHD.